we have a guest in the house, which is why we're on the same couch.
It's my sister, Joy. Welcome, Joy.
Hey, Joanna.
Austin was actually at the house. So I walked downstairs and I'm like, does he know that I know that
Oh my goodness.
I know that he likes me kind of thing?
Were you like
just
so nervous?
Oh, so
Awkward?
nervous and awkward. And I like looked at him and then my dad like was like, hey, Austin, I need you to come upstairs to my office. And I was like, oh my gracious. I felt like I got to a place where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta know, like, who is God? Is there a God even? Like, I came to like bottom. And it was a really scary place to be because I had never questioned God. And I had almost said in my heart, like, I never will question God. And I just remember like laying in bed and talking to Austin. And I was just like, I'm so scared.
What's going on, guys? Ginger and Jeremy here, and we're back for another episode. And we have a guest in the house, which is why we're on the same couch.
Yes, we're on the same couch because we have an awesome guest. I've known her entire life, and I think I met her shortly after she was born. It's my sister, Joy. Welcome, Joy.
Hey, Joanna.
Hey.
Welcome to the podcast.
Wow, Joanna, that's very formal.
Yeah.
Very formal.
Only
Joy
my mom calls me that.
Anna.
But you have the
What's your
hyphen in your
name?
name, don't you?
Yeah. Well,
Joy
not
dash?
technically. That's
It's
my
not
middle
legally,
name.
but it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you write it, do you do a dash? Joy
No.
Anna?
Not
We
anymore.
did.
Oh, okay.
I did all growing up,
did.
but I
You
don't
dropped
really do
it.
it anymore. Yeah.
It's Joy.
Joanna. I like Joanna.
But I like either way. It's just my mom is the only one that really calls me that anymore.
Until today.
Great.
Until today.
Hey, we just had your husband on the podcast.
I know. That's crazy.
What a guy.
So Austin called me when he was here and he was like, yeah, I'm going to do the podcast with Jeremy. And I was like, oh, that's funny. Like and you were joking in the background.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's funny. I never can read Jeremy. Like your humor, you
Is he
and
for
Austin
real?
banter back and forth. So I was like, okay, whatever. Well, he calls me a couple hours later and he's like, yeah, the podcast went really well. I was like, you did what? I thought he was joking and he was dead serious. So I
love
thought
it.
that was great.
Oh, that's amazing. He did a good job. He really did.
yeah,
It was so
Austin's
fun.
the man. It was cool to get
He
inside
really is.
his head and his world and hear his story a little bit.
Well, it's funny because he did not ever enjoy being in front of the camera.
Mhm.
And people always thought he was always angry all the time because he was always quiet and just
Yeah.
was very shy in front of the camera. He would like close off. And so anyway, but he's gotten a lot better over the years of just being himself.
Being
and
natural.
not letting it bother him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What are you doing in life? Where are you in life right now?
I feel like I'm all over the place. I'm in LA right now, which is crazy.
It's the
so
best,
fun.
actually.
In life, I'm homeschooling Gideon and Evie consistently now, which is a lot of fun. We do a lot with our church, a lot of ministry with the young adults. And then past that, I'm doing a lot of social media on Instagram, trying to build that a little bit more. So,
And so it is your social media, for people who don't know, is at Joy for the number four SITE site.
Yeah.
Her name is Forsyth.
Ginger
and
gets
I
so confused
get
and frustrated,
so
actually.
bothered. I get so bothered. I'm like, your name is Forsyth. And they say Forsyth.
I say that because
Foresight.
that's how Austin always said foresight.
I
It's
know.
just
I'm
foresight.
like, you are a Forsyth. You're not a Foresight.
Yeah, it does have
But
the TH on the end.
It's okay because that's their
I
Instagram.
only did that Instagram handle
No, I
because
think it's
Austin
great.
had that. So
I
I, was
think
like,
it's
that'd be cute to
awesome.
match each other.
It actually, for Instagram, it works. But in normal life, he still introduces himself as Austin Forsyth.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow,
That's how they say it.
I'm just going to drop
Technically
that.
Hey, so you guys grew
Have
up
to.
together.
Yeah,
We did. We grew
which
up.
is crazy.
Are you number 8,
9.
9? And growing up, talk about how were you guys really close growing up as sisters?
No.
We were not. We actually weren't. So
I feel like we were
was-
drastically different.
yeah.
I think.
And you were younger.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like I was a part of the upper, like the top half of the
Mhm.
siblings. So I feel like it was kind of, I was the youngest of that top group. So we had the 6 oldest. And then I feel like from there, wouldn't you say it was like right below me was another section?
Yeah, like the middle section.
Middle section of kids. And
Yeah.
who does that go
Joe,
to? Joseph, Josiah,
me,
Joy.
Jed, Jer,
Yeah.
maybe Jason. Not
Sometimes.
really. Sometimes. Once the boys got older, then it was like the 6 boys.
Yeah.
were like their own group.
Mhm.
But for the longest time, I felt like I had the best of both worlds because I was in the middle. I was very much of a tomboy, and Ginger was not. And so I feel like it was a lot of we just never really connected.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was able to, when I wanted to, go shopping with the girls, do all the girly things. And then I would get home and I would go jump ramps on my bike with the boys.
Yeah.
And go
do
to
all
work
the work
with them.
projects.
Yeah. Like
I love that stuff.
Could care less about shopping. Like the only kind of shopping I wanted to do was grocery shopping. Like I did not want to go to the thrift store for hours on end with Ginger because you were stuck. And so, yeah, I think that was a lot of the reason that we just didn't
before you
connect.
drank coffee.
Yes, I did not drink coffee.
You were too young.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, I didn't drink coffee until after I had Gideon. And then I started
That's so funny.
I would only drink those super sugary like frappes. And I'm still kind of like that. But I can drink some coffee.
What kind of sister was Ginger growing up?
Oh no.
What kind of older sister was she?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, honestly.
What stage though?
Okay,
Yeah, let's start from the beginning.
Dang.
When you ask me that, the first thought that comes to my mind is she was not like one that had to do a lot as far as like
responsibilities.
With us.
Yeah.
So she was the chill sister, if that makes sense. Like
I didn't
she
keep
wasn't,
everybody in line.
No,
That's
she didn't.
for sure.
Yeah, she didn't. And she didn't have to necessarily. From my perspective, like she wasn't the one that had to put down the law.
Yep.
And so for me, I feel like, I don't know, like I don't see Ginger as, oh, well, yeah, she was this sister, she was this certain way. Like she was just Ginger. She, like the thing that comes to my mind is she was always like reading her Bible in her room. And I remember
Maybe
Ginger,
too much sometimes.
which is not a bad thing.
Actually.
I just remember like she was the super uber spiritual one in the family. And she always was like trying to be prim and proper and had her clothes like a certain way. And
I'm not dressed like this because I was at a Bible study playing piano.
here's our personalities
Put on-
right here.
I'm wearing
I'm
boots.
kidding.
This is actually so funny because I would wear stuff like this all the time. I'd wear more like, because I just
Well,
like
I
you
asked
wouldn't
you
wear
what
stuff
to
like
wear,
this
and
all the
Ginger was
time.
like, sure, just
With
wear that.
it was
She
just
said,
like-
sure, just wear that. And I come up here and I'm like, you didn't change. We're like completely different
gonna
vibes
change.
here.
But the problem
I'm
is
super casual.
I'm like 5 weeks away from having this baby and I only have so many outfits. You know how it is at the end.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I wore this to Bible study to play
If you
piano
feel-
for them today.
If you feel good, just wear it.
So I was like, I'm just going to wear it.
Anyway,
okay.
but to expound on that, I feel like Ginger was always the super fun one, always the lively one in the group, constantly.
Oh, wild.
Well, I wouldn't say wild. You were just always friendly to
Yeah.
everybody. And even if they weren't just like us, you would reach out to them and like make them feel a part of our family and our group and stuff. So I feel like
That's very sweet.
you were, don't start crying. No, I'm kidding.
I
She's like, I'm super weepy
hate it.
in pregnancy,
I hate
especially.
it.
But she was always, there was nothing negative that I ever had to say about Ginger. She
Oh,
was
that's
always
sweet,
a
Joy.
light and a joy to be around.
That's
All right, now
very
it's your
Even
turn.
when I
What's
didn't want to
your-
go shopping.
Joy was always a joy to be around.
Oh, my
Her
word.
name is Joy.
Hey, you know
But
what's
for
funny is how
real-
your name does match you.
It does.
And then when we named Felicity, which is like happiness, she's the most happy baby in the
Mhm.
world.
Maybe that's what we should start doing. Just
I
name
know.
our kids.
Name
I'm
your
gonna
kid
just
what you want them to
name
act
him
like.
after-
Yeah,
Actually-
really.
way to think about that. Okay, we're not
Yeah.
going to tell you his name.
Well, I thought you already had the baby's name set down.
Well, hey,
Yeah,
somebody
that's fine.
actually asked, because we took listener questions, which we'll get to in this
Okay.
episode. But somebody asked, does Joy Anna know the name of our son?
No, I would not ask to know.
So we have only told
You have told people?
one person who
Well, it was my grandfather.
it was necessary
Oh.
because, you
My
know,
grandfather.
Grandpa Volo,
He's
he
95. We were with him in person.
You should tell
And
Grandpa.
this is the
Volo.
heir to the Volo throne. So he's the one
Yeah.
who's
Oh,
keeping the
that's
Volo name.
right.
And so we told Grandpa.
we did
Yes.
tell him.
We were with him in person. So.
Yeah,
That makes
he
sense.
wanted to know, and he kept asking, and then we were like, we can just like slip over
Well,
and
and
tell
he's
I
him.
had my
not-
dad leave. I said, Dad, give us a second. So I did. But actually, there's some drama with, and I want to get to your impression of Joy. So I want you to answer that. But
Yes,
there is some drama with the name, and it's not really drama, but it was just a
Evie.
funny
Say what?
incident with Evie. Remember when you named Evelyn and then we named Evangeline? And so now we have
actually named
Evie
her
May.
Evangeline.
Yeah, Evie Jo.
We named her Evangeline, and then we started calling
then
her
we switched to
Evangeline.
Evangeline.
We're so
But
good
tell
with
that
things.
story.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was, well, we've had two
Super
people
funny.
in the last week, like, be like, oh, there's two Evies. Because especially when we're together, we get asked, like, why more.
Today at Bible study,
Yes,
it was
today at
really
Bible
funny
study.
because they were like, I know Evie. Now who is this? And she's like, I'm Evie. It was really cute.
Yeah, it is very cute.
But it was funny because y'all kept your Evie, her name was a secret until she was born. And she was born about 6 months before our Evie. Isn't that right?
6 months or
well, we
weeks?
didn't even decide on
6
her
months.
name until she was born.
I didn't
we
know
had
she
no
was 6
idea.
months old.
So you didn't share any names.
Yeah, we didn't
and so
share
that
any
was part of it.
names.
It wasn't like you have ideas, anything.
No.
So when she was born, you sent a video to the family and you said, here, we're going to announce her name. Now, first, we're going to tell you the nickname. It's Evie May. And we were like,
Oh, we looked at each
no.
other like, oh no. Because we had met a little girl named Evangeline like 2 years earlier. And we thought, if we have another girl, her name's going to be Evangeline.
Mhm.
And so then we decided on Evie Jo. And so when you sent that video, I'll never forget, we look at each other like, oh,
Oh
no,
my
you're
goodness.
her
We're like,
nickname's
we need
Evie.
to call him. But then you said it's Evelyn May.
Yeah.
And so we kind of were like, okay, let's talk to Joy and Austin. So we called y'all.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think that day.
Yeah.
And we just said, hey, we're going to tell you the name only because
Well, we asked if
we wanted to
you
make
were
sure it was
with
okay.
that.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to,
You got there
like,
first. You had the
do
baby
that.
first.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Well, we did not care at all, but I do remember y'all calling me and I was like, that's so great. It's going to be confusing, but it's going to be awesome.
yeah.
and I'm
Just
sure
because
they'll
they're
love
so
it
close in
growing up.
age too, which is really fun. But also we don't live near each other. And so in these times when we're actually together is the only time it's actually confusing.
Yes.
And so it's sweet though. I think it's adorable.
Yeah.
I love it.
But
Okay.
people did get offended for us because you guys had Evangeline
they?
after. And we would get comments of like,
yes.
I can't believe that they would name their daughter the same
Mhm.
or have the same nickname. And so, but I'm like, that's what people do. And I'm like, I don't care.
I mean, when you're at like, I think at that point, what was it? 20 something
20-something, yeah.
grandkids. Now we're at 35 or
39.
39. Oh, whoops. Okay.
Yeah. You're going to have
I'm
some
behind.
Yeah.
nicknames that
You're
are
going
going
to
to
have
You're gonna
some
have
of
a
the
lot.
same names.
Yeah.
So I think that's just going to happen. And it's just par for the course, like with a huge family.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break from this episode to talk about Nutrafol. Ginger, talk about it.
Yeah, I have had quite a few friends who have used Nutrafol and have really loved it. They were raving about how it's helped them, especially if they've had hair thinning. It's been something that has really boosted their health overall, but then also just their health of their hair. And who doesn't want to have beautiful hair?
Yeah, it's a big part of your confidence. And when you start to notice that it's thinning, man, it gets after you. But thankfully, Nutrafol is here to help. So it's this wonderful supplement and it really works. It's incredible.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
Yeah, so for a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off their first month subscription. So you go to Nutrafol.com and then put in the promo code JandJ, that's JANDJ, and you'll get that discount. So it's a great opportunity. That's Nutrafol.com, Nutrafol.com, promo code JandJ. Okay, let's get back to the episode. Okay.
I'm going to just tell you about
impressions
Joy.
of Joy. Give us
So-
Joy growing up.
This is Joy growing up. She was a pretty happy kid from what I remember, even when you were small. It kind of reminds me of Gunner. Now I'm seeing your little Gunner who is 20 months old now. 20 months old.
He's 20
I couldn't
months.
remember today how old he was. It's okay. It happens.
Oh, when you're counting the
No,
months.
it's
Yeah.
just by
Yeah,
months.
years are easier.
Yes,
I was
it's
like, he's a
easier.
year and a
I
half.
always do the years. I don't do months. But
Felicity is 82 months.
he reminds me a lot of you though, because you as a baby, it's like that was Joy because you were just like this cute, smiley little kid, adorable. But then it's funny because I am 4 years older than you, I think.
Mhm.
So seeing you grow up, I I got pushed into the older top half. So I would look at you as like, okay, I have Joseph, Josiah, and then Joy under me. And you were just a younger one. You were one of the younger kiddos. And so sometimes you would join us, sometimes you wouldn't. But it was kind of an interesting place for you because I had, Jana, Jill, Jessa, who I was close with as far as sisters go. And then we were the next closest sisters in line. But I didn't really get to connect with Joy until later. So I would always look at her as she was a tomboy. She was always wanting to be outside, do fun things, hands-on, climbing trees. And that just wasn't me. So it was kind of funny because we didn't really connect until you were
Well, it wasn't until
older.
Jill and Jessa got married.
Yeah.
And they moved out of the house.
Yeah.
And then it became Jana, Ginger, and I.
It was the older
left
girls.
home.
That was it.
And so I think that's when we really started to connect more. And then we were both in a relationship at that point.
Yeah.
And I feel like we had more in common, I guess.
Yeah, because then it naturally, the older you get, then you start to, you surpassed me in wisdom and all these things that you feel it happens because you're just a younger sibling in my eyes for so many years. And it's wait, she's like a peer now. And you're in the same season of life. You all got married 6 months after us or whatever it was. Was 6 months? Yeah. That's what I don't know if you just said that, my brain. But anyhow, and it was sweet because we were in the same season of life. And then you guys had Gideon before us. And so it was just kind of I don't know, it's interesting how life shifts like that. And you were a part of the older girls at that point. And we just had way more in common and started to really, that relationship of both of us started to blossom and develop. But it was fun just seeing you as a young tom girl. You were always bothered about having your hair fixed or something.
My word. Yes.
I think that was something that I remember. And you just didn't want it you were not all about having it styled really cute or really fun.
Yeah, you would try. That's one thing. You would try and help me in a very kind way. Hey, Joy, why don't you try this?
Yeah.
I would wear the same 5 t-shirts and jean skirts.
Yes.
And they
all
were
the time.
To church, to everything.
Yep.
And Ginger's hey, I bought you this new dress. Why don't you try it? And I'm dresses. I don't want to wear dresses.
Yeah. It was so
but I would
funny.
cry when you guys would comment on, oh, hey, why don't you try and fix your hair instead of a ponytail? Why don't you do this? And I'd be I don't want to do that.
And it was cute though, because it was your thing. And we, in that setting too, maybe we were just more okay, we should be like this. Everybody should, the older you get, you want everybody to, I don't know, be more mature, whatever.
It came from, and I can see now as an older sister because I do the same thing with my youngers. Hey, can I help you in this area? And I think it came, I knew deep down that it came from a heart of we want to help you and we know where you're at in that awkward, teenage season of who am I? But I was very insecure in every area of my life at that time. And so I was just pushing back towards everybody. And I was just I don't want help. I don't want to disappear.
I will say though, you were also very sweet and I never really felt that in the way that you may have had your preferences on what you wear or what you did. If you wanted to go shopping, we always knew Joy will go shopping if it's going to be 10 minutes or less.
Yep.
What season of life is that though you're talking about?
The teenage season.
Oh, so that was teenage when you were you didn't want.
Yeah, definitely teenage season. Well, and it was, we had moved to when I was 14, was it when Josie was born? I feel I had just
you were probably 13, 14.
13, 14.
Yep.
When I started getting super insecure, which I think that's normal for teenagers to kind of go through that season. And I definitely went through it. But I would put on the outside of the confidence of oh, I'm just, that's just who I am. I'm a tomboy and I don't care how I look. But I think a lot of it came from insecurity because I didn't know how to take care of myself, but I was almost too prideful to ask for help in those areas because I wanted to look nice and I wanted to be, but at the same time, I didn't like how my body was changing and how I was growing up because I also was sentimental about, being 12, 10, all of the things. So
Did you struggle? Ginger's often talked about because with the modesty standards, when it came to playing volleyball or going swimming or riding bikes, Ginger just opted out a lot of stuff because she's like, I'm not going to do that with a dress on. So how does a tomboy who's a country girl running with the boys, what was your relationship with the skirts?
I just did it, I guess. To me, it never held me back. So I remember when I was 14, I asked mom and pops, I started asking them a lot more. Why do we, not in a I can't function in a skirt, but why do we wear skirts? Why can't we wear pants? Kind of those questions. But I never felt held back, I guess. I did feel like there were certain things we couldn't do because it wasn't modest.
But you were more
but I was definitely I don't care.
Do anything.
I'm going to do it anyways. If I want to go ride a bike and it get caught in the chain a million times, I'm just going to keep riding. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that a lot of us we had differences in how we processed everything too.
Yes.
And that's just what you see. There's so many differences with siblings.
Yeah, with 19 different people, you're going to have 19 different perspectives. And so for me, my personality was, I didn't really care how people looked at me or how I looked until I was about 14. But before that, I could care less. I won't wash my hair for 10 days if I didn't have to. I did not care.
And part of that's country living too.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are out there with tons of acreage and,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're country kids
but
in
it's
Arkansas.
so crazy because Ginger and I, we had the same upbringing, the same household. And I feel like we definitely had different perspectives. And so she's very much, wants to be put together. Especially back then, she was still I'm going to have my certain style, even though if it was now she looks back and what was I wearing?
I know.
Yes.
But it was I wanted to be in a certain look.
Yes.
But there's part of that too that I think, just naturally comes temperament. Because some people are just going to be more chill and it's just part of your style.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Okay. So 14, when did you notice Austin?
Oh man.
Austin.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was about that time.
Austin was around our family.
Insecure.
We had Austin on the podcast. If y'all haven't seen that episode, go check it out. Joy's husband, Austin, was a friend of our family's. And Joy had a crush on him.
Yeah, ever since I was 13, turning 14. When I first was he's cute. But obviously, he was way older than me. And I was like, it's probably never going to happen. I'm so much younger. That's weird kind of thing. But I was definitely crushing hard at 14.
Yeah.
Just this guy's cute. He was kind of quiet. And I was actually it made me even more curious about him because he was kind of quiet. And I was intrigued by that of what is his story kind of thing. And he kind of had the rebellious side of him that I liked of just, I'm going to do what I know is right. And people can like that or not. Or whatever I'm going to do. And I'm going to just be who I am. And if people don't like it, they can get over it kind of attitude. And I hadn't seen that a lot in our circles because I feel like so many people would come around us and just conform to, the Duggars are doing this, so we're going to do this too. But he was not like that. And I think that was also a reason why I really liked him.
Yeah, that's true. That's a struggle that Ginger's talked often about, but I think a lot of the sisters relate to is people would come around and there was a question of motive a lot of times. And then when you guys start getting interested in, guys coming around, you're wondering, why are they showing interest in me? Is it because of the TV crew? Is it because whatever, the notoriety, whatever it is? And so it's interesting to see who the girls have gone after. And even though Austin grew up with you, to hear that about, he didn't just fall in line.
Yeah. And he also was, like you said, I think I noticed that too. Certain people were around and they would avoid the cameras or make it super awkward. But I think Austin just was okay, if I need to film, if he was there, it's whatever. And if he, stepped away, it was not a big deal. You could tell he's not there for any of that.
Yes.
And like you said, he'd rather just run away from the camera.
Yeah.
Than be in the front and center of it.
Yeah.
Was he on the show before you guys started dating or anything?
Family camp.
Yeah,
not family
I guess
camp.
we went out to his
Their family
family's,
camp, yes.
we did the father-daughter retreat, and so they filmed that. But he never really talked to the camera.
Probably would
I
have
don't
been in
think.
the background of a lot.
Just in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And he may have been in a couple scenes here and there, but not actually doing interviews.
Yeah. Okay, so give us the love story then, because we heard it from him on episode 32, which was a fun episode. But give us your side, because you would leave little hints laying around
Oh,
for
my
Austin.
word. Did he say that?
Did you
So
write on
embarrassing.
walls? What did you do?
Literally, I did. Did you not know that?
Oh, yeah. I heard that
I was
later.
gonna say.
I heard that a year ago, and I was like, you did
I did
what?
not believe you. Oh,
You're
yeah.
crazy.
It was so embarrassing. So I was the type that was like, I'm not going to let him know that I like him until if something happens. Because I did not want to damage that relationship because it was I really knew that he was close to the brothers and he was really a good friend. I remember so many nights before you and I obviously before you and I got married, but before you got married, we would stay up late just talking about just so many different things. And I really appreciated that, to have a true friend, like you said. It wasn't just somebody that was trying to get in and get the news and be on TV. It was genuine, he cared for our family. And so I was like, I don't want to mess that up. I really like him. But when I was 16, 17, I remember telling Pops, I really think that I'm going to marry this guy, because I don't know. I just felt like he's going to be the one I'm going to spend forever with. And it sounds crazy, but I just genuinely felt that. But I really tried not to show that to him and just be chill and even almost disappear when he was around so he wouldn't notice me. But when I was 17, 18, I remember telling my dad, I just can't stop thinking about him. I not obsessing, but just I don't know. There's something about him that I just want to be with him and want to be around him. And anyway, Pops just kept saying, I don't know if it's going to happen. Let's just keep praying about it. Pops was probably I don't know about this guy, because Pops knew a lot about Austin just because we had grown up together. And
No prophet is welcomed in his hometown.
Yeah. It's a blessing and the curse of being close to your, it's like a friend from childhood.
And then people put you in a
knowing
category.
so much about them.
They know 10-year-old Austin or 14-year-old Austin or 17-year-old Austin.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And so anyway, I remember when my dad told me that Austin was interested in me. And I just started bawling, because I had this had been 4 years of me just going to my mom and dad hey, yeah, they would ask me every once in a while, hey, is there anybody that you like? Just checking in or whatever. And I would tell them, oh, this guy or this guy. There were other people that I thought, oh, maybe he's cute or I kind of like him. But Austin was the main character in that drama of my life. But anyway, at 18, when Pops told me that, I was shocked. And I was like, there's no way. This is kind of, what you dream of happening one day. But when it actually happened, I was so excited. And Austin was actually at the house. So I walked downstairs and I'm like, does he know that I know that?
Oh my goodness.
I know that he likes me, kind of thing.
Were you just so nervous?
Oh, so nervous and awkward. And I looked at him, and then my dad was like, hey, Austin, I need you to come upstairs to my office. And I was like, oh my gracious, because now he's going to know. So Pops told him, and then he came down, I think is how it happened. And then we both looked at each other, and we both knew that we knew, but we had other people at the house. And so I didn't want them to know that we all knew.
Because I think, okay, how much of that too was wanting to keep things under wraps because you wanted to, like you said, Austin, we know his family. You want to protect that friendship, and maybe how much of it was you wanting to just get to know him without pressure, or opinions, and to keep it under wraps for that reason alone.
A lot of it was that. So I didn't want anybody to know that we were talking to each other until we got to know each other a little bit better. Because I feel like once everybody knows, then they're counting how close you're sitting together. And they're all of the all of the tension of, okay, you're going to get married. When are you going to get married? Like starts happening. And I felt like we needed that time to just, without the cameras, without the everybody knowing, we needed that time just to be able to talk for a little while and just know that we both like each other. And that's enough. Like, let's keep going.
So we've talked about like the courtship culture and all that. And without going into all that too much detail, do you think that's one of the negative sides of the courtship culture is the amount of pressure it puts on a young couple right away? Like, is that why you felt like, hey, we need to keep this? Because once people know that, oh, they're interested, you start getting questions about proposal, wedding, like all that. And it's like, these are two kids, basically, young people getting to know each other.
I think there's good and bad in it. And I think there are negatives of, yes, I feel like you could feel pressured to jump further in a relationship than you're ready for.
Or to make it
or
official.
Put
that's
labels
the question.
on it.
Is it like, does it have to be official?
Yeah. Instead of
just like getting to know each other.
Yeah, because I feel like in our family, you couldn't just be friends. You had to be something. And so I feel like we really needed that time to just be friends and like, we're being more intentional in our friendship, but we're not actually dating yet.
So how long until you started dating?
It was kind of crazy because actually y'all's wedding messed our timeline up. The film crew actually told us. So the film crew actually told us that we could not, they said we couldn't make it public till after y'all's wedding because they didn't want to mess up the timeline of the show.
Yo, that's crazy that the show like determined your relationships.
So they said that our courtship couldn't be like announced until after. So we technically didn't start dating until after you guys got married.
Wow.
Which was in November, right?
November.
So
November 2016.
It went live like in November is when we actually announced.
And how long did you start dating after that conversation where you guys like called eyes, coming down, your dad told you and him?
I'm so bad with timelines.
Okay, but was it like a few months, you think?
No,
or?
it was probably like 6 months or longer.
Yeah.
It was a while, but I think we needed that too at the same time.
Sure, for sure.
Like I'm actually kind of glad that it happened that way because we weren't like rushed into anything.
Yeah.
Well, I felt coming into it, I felt that pressure knowing when we started courting, we kept it under wraps for a while because the moment we were like on the cover of a magazine or it's like there was like articles about
when you
it's
started
like the
courting.
moment you start.
Yeah.
Maybe that was our engagement, the magazine stuff, but then the tabloids. And I also was speaking to people in production about like the deluge of attention. So they were like, your whole life is about to be exposed. So, I had a misdemeanor in college and I had, a police record from that incident and all this stuff. And they were just letting me know like, hey, people are going to scour the internet for everything about you. Your whole life is going to be exposed. You're going to have Reddit threads. You're going to have tabloids. You're going to have like all this stuff happen once you let this be known. And I remember thinking, okay, we got to hold on. Like, we just need this pressure list before we announce that. And so then when you finally do announce, you're ready for like the barrage of stuff. But that's such a fascinating dynamic in that relationship.
It's crazy.
Like,
well, and we grew up in TV. And so for me, it's just the next step. Like it's not a big deal. It's just the next thing they're going to film about our life.
Of course we tell the producer. Yeah.
I was kind of taken back at how big of a deal Austin made it. If that sounds crazy, but he was like, this is like filming is such a huge deal. Like, and it's a lot of commitment to put my life out there.
And here
I was
you
like,
were
well,
on
what's
it.
the big deal kind of thing.
Right.
Like, I'm super carefree, like
Because
whatever.
you were on it too since you were like 6?
6, yeah.
So
for me, it took me a while to understand why it was a big deal for him to, because he had said later on in our relationship, he was like, honestly, filming was he's like, I was really scared and almost didn't go forward dating you because of the filming, is what he had told me. And I was like, what? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just so normal that I didn't realize how big of a life change that would be. Because it's true. They literally dig into your lives. They look at all of your past, whether you like it or not. And it's a whole can of worms that you have to put yourself out there.
And once you open it, you don't close it.
Yeah.
It's fascinating that you guys had to wrestle with, you either had people who were almost obsessive, like they were coming at you because of the filming. They wanted to be involved in the filming. And then that led you guys to like eye roll and go, oh, here's another guy who wants the attention. But then on the other side, you'd have guys who are like, I don't want that attention. You're going, but it's part of my life. Like, of course we film.
Yeah.
And so then
crazy?
They're going, I don't want that. And you're like eye rolling almost like, wait, but it's just normal.
Yeah.
Like, it's such an interesting tension.
Yeah.
It is. It's a weird
so
dynamic,
strange.
isn't it?
But I think for me to see that Austin didn't care about it was a huge green flag for me. Like, okay, that's another, like, I don't have to worry about that side of it. And I would be much rather that than the opposite.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely.
Wow, that's wild. It takes the right, and it probably gives you security too, knowing like it takes the right guy to come along who's going to be able to handle all of this stuff too, because it is just complicated.
Very.
So what's your journey been like, Joy, of like meeting Jesus? When do you think you met Jesus, came to know Jesus? What's the journey been like since then? That's like a massive question, but I am interested in that, like to see. Ginger's been so open, in her books on here about her theological journey. Where are you now? Where have you come in that whole process? When do you think that journey with Jesus started for you?
So I got saved when I was 6, and I feel like I didn't really understand everything and start my journey, I guess you would say, in spiritual growth. I didn't have any much spiritual growth until I was 16 and 17. And I think there was a lot of stuff going on with the family. I feel like there was a lot of just with Josh's stuff. I don't know if you'll talk about that. But there was a lot of stuff with Josh going on at that time. And I feel like my whole world was just exploding. And I would say that I wasn't questioning God at that point in my life. I just was like, what do I believe? What do I not believe? And so I started searching stuff out for myself. And I think that that's when I really understood I started understanding all that God did for me and how much he loved me and how much he cared for me. And I think before that, I never really had understood doctrine. I wasn't ever like discipled in that area. And so for me, I was actually going through the 1-year Bible class, and I grew, like, that's why I say 17 was like probably one of my favorite ages, because I grew so much spiritually that year. And I had prayed about Austin, I think that year as well. And he was it was really neat because God used him, even before we started dating, God used him to, I think, spark a lot of curiosity about doctrine. And I had never been curious about, why do I believe what I believe? Like, and he would ask really good questions that would prompt me to go, why do I believe that? Or what does that mean? Or what does that word mean? So then I would be curious and go back and study it. And we would talk about it because we would see him at least 2 or 3 times a week. And it is really neat to see how God used him even before we were dating to help me grow spiritually. And so at 17, I went through the one, it was 3-year Bible. It was the FBI. And so we went through that, and I just started learning about the attributes of God. And that was one of my favorite semesters to go through, just learning that all of these attributes of God that I had never studied before. And I think a lot of it was just learning about who God is was the biggest thing for me, because I had always followed the letter of the law, I guess, and do this, don't do that. And to see that God loves me despite all of the things I do or don't do was huge. And so I started seeing little glimpses of it, but it wasn't until later. And it was like the last 3 years that I feel like I've had a huge growth in my spiritual walk.
And what was that turning point for you? What was the catalyst? Because you know so much, you're growing, but then you enter motherhood, marriage, all these beautiful gifts from God. And then was there something that happened, shook up, that time and that season where you were like, wow, now the rubber meets the road. All this that I've learned needs to become my own in a deeper way or be put into practice now.
Yeah. So we grew up in the same home. Like Mama was really good and Pops about instilling God's word in our heart and talking about, you know, we went to church all the time and we learned about what the Christian life should look like. But I guess for me, I had never had the opportunity or never had gone through anything hard on my own, if that makes sense. Yeah, we had hard things in our childhood or even going through our relationship with Austin. Like there was some bumps in the road, but it was really smooth sailing. And it wasn't until I really feel like I came to the end of myself and realized that, oh, I am a sinner. Like I said that when I got saved, like, hey, Lord, please forgive me for my sins. But I didn't understand that I am a sinner. And without Christ, I am worthless in a sense, you know, like all of my good works that I do. And the Bible says that, but I never really understood it. It says filthy rags. And so for me, I think when 2 years ago, I feel like it's been like slowly all of these walls that I had built up of I've done this and I've done that and I've done this and I've done that came crumbling down. And I realized I can't do anything without Christ. And the things that I do are worthless without Christ. And so I just kept trying to read my Bible more. I had this pressure of like, I've got to pray this much. I got to read my Bible. And it was exhausting because I just felt like I could never do enough. And so it was really not until after I had Gunner that I feel like I was just mentally like wore out. And now I'm the one crying. You haven't even cried yet. Thank you. I feel like after I had Gunner, there was just so much going on with the family stuff that I felt like I got to a place where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I got to know, like, who is God? Is there a God even? Like, I came to like bottom. And it was a really scary place to be because I had never questioned God. And I had almost said in my heart, like, I never will question God. And I just remember like laying in bed and talking to Austin. And I was just like, I'm so scared because everything that I have believed may not be true. And it was just so, I guess, just so dark. And I felt, I just felt hopeless. And I think he just held me up. Austin really held me up. And he just kept pushing me back to, I want you to figure this out on your own. I'm not going to. He never made me feel bad for questioning all the things that I was going through. But he kept pointing me back to, you could ask these questions, but I want you to look for answers. Don't just ask them and then just like keep pushing away. And so that was huge for me because I feel like that really started the journey back to me going back to the Bible and just saying, God, like, what does your word say? Where, like, how much of it? And I still struggle with it, some of, I've got to do this and do that. Because I feel like I think that's just something that I'm going to struggle with. But I feel like God has shown me that it's not in what I do. He's already done it. And I don't have to keep trying. And I don't have to keep trying for his love and his affection. And so I think that's been the biggest thing in the last 3 years of just understanding that God loves me and he loved me while I was sinning. And it's okay if I had a season of questioning him. Like that's good as long as I'm growing in my, as long as I'm going back to him and growing in my faith. And anyway, so I feel like I really actually learned what faith is in that journey too, because I'm like, you can have a great childhood and I feel like I never really had to put my faith into practice. And I never really had to, I guess all of those verses, like there were so many dark nights where I would just be laying in bed and I'd be quoting these verses that I learned as a kid, just over and over and over again because it was really dark. And I feel like God just, in those dark times, though, and they say like in the valleys is where you grow the most. And so I'm thankful for it, but it was super hard and I wouldn't want to go through it again, but it was really good. Anyway, there's the long.
No, thanks for being so open and sharing that. I know that is not easy, but I think that so many people can relate to that story. And it's needful for each one of us to have those times where we do question and ask the hard questions. You're not just in blind faith believing everything that you've ever heard. And I think that that's a wrestling that we even see in the Psalms, you know, like, and the psalmist would say, like, where are you? You know, like this deep, raw, real brokenness before God, but then coming back and saying, okay, but where else can I go? You have the words of eternal life. We end up at that place where it's like, I wouldn't want anything else. There's nothing else that satisfies in life. And so you can come back to that place.
Yeah. And recognizing like the Lord handles our questions.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful to hear how Austin responded, because that really is the heart of the Lord. The other day, Felicity was asking me a lot of why questions, and they were about why certain things are so difficult for her. And I think it was like, why does she have to go to bed? But I was explaining to her, I wasn't angry at her for asking why. And in a similar way, the Lord looks at his children and he's not angry at us for asking why. He never gets angry at Job for asking why. In fact, he gives Job answers. He never says to the psalmist, stop petitioning, stop asking.
Yeah.
He puts down on the sacred pages of scripture all of these questions. And what's beautiful to hear about your testimony is that it lands in the gospel. Like it lands in Christ is enough. Christ has done what I can't do. And there's still going to be questions why. Hopefully we never have those dark nights of the soul like what you've been through, but there's still going to be doubts and there's still going to be questions. And even as we experience more of life, you know, pastorally, I have counseled so many situations of people going through things with their children that I've never had to go through with my children because either I didn't have children at the time or my children are young. And so there are going to be challenges and there are going to be things where we say, God, why? Why is this part of your plan? And God's not afraid of those questions. I know that's sort of cliche to say, but it's true. And he has answers for those. So in this season now, has this been like a sweet season coming out of that dark nights, I guess what you would...
Yes, it has definitely been. And I've told Austin this. It has definitely been like the best season for our family. And just being able to enjoy really just life. Like, I feel like I'm trying to do better about taking care of myself, whether it's physically or just mentally and spiritually, just making sure that I am balanced in all of the areas and trying to be more active so that I can keep up with my kids.
Joy, you're kicking butt.
We have to stop for a second.
Unbelievable.
She has been going to Burn Boot Camp. She did her 100th workout at Burn Boot Camp right before you came, right? How many days was it before you came? And then sadly, we don't have one right here.
I know, I need
us.
to go running
What
or
a bummer.
something.
But she has done 100 Burn Boot Camps.
I mean, you've been after it.
Yeah, I've been trying. Well, when I first started, I was going 5 days a week, and then I slowed down so that we could have a better routine at home. But I've been doing at least 2 to 3 days a week at the gym.
So impressive.
It's been really good. It's been good because it pushes myself physically, but also I feel like mentally getting over those hurdles of I can do this. I can do hard things. It's okay. And I feel like it's given me a lot of motivation.
Yeah.
And I have other mom friends back home that I do it with. And so we'll meet up at the gym for 45 minutes. Our kids are in the nursery and we just hit it and we motivate each other. And
I love it.
Been really good for me because I feel stronger. I feel the best I probably ever have. And I absolutely love it.
That's awesome.
You do seem really happy.
Yeah.
And it seems like you and Austin are really enjoying each other. And there are these seasons, like Ginger and I reflect often, where Is it Jeremy and Audrey Roloff have the podcast, These Are the Days?
Yes.
And what is Gabby's song? The Good Old Days or The Glory Days?
Yeah, these are the glory
yes,
days.
these are the
And
glory days.
There are times where you pinch yourself and realize like, hey, this is it. Like these are really sweet. These are the memories we're going to look back on with the little kids, with the routines of life.
In the moment, it can be so hard
Yeah.
and overwhelming. And when they're so young and needy, I think you realize like, okay, there are seasons, where you may enjoy one season more than the other. And at the same time, it is a gift and it is very sweet.
And it seems like you're in one of those seasons that's just like, it's a happy, fun time of life.
Yeah,
Gunner's a handful.
Oh,
but
man.
he's a gunner.
Yeah,
I feel
he's
like
teething right now and he's been extra handful. He's just
you
But
got
he's a
such a
happy
good job.
too.
He
But
has
he is
the
happy.
cutest smile.
And frowning face.
And frown face. He
Yeah.
does
Oh
the
yeah, he'll
side
just
eye.
sit there and put his frown face on and just like
I
stare
love
down.
it. It's so sweet.
It's adorable.
He's pretty great. But it is
He's very
definitely,
cute.
it's been a really good season. And I feel like that's something that I had been praying this last year, of just praying that God would help me be purposeful in this season with Gideon and Evie and Gunner. Especially Gideon, though, I feel like he's at such a pivotal age. 6, 7, 8. Like, I feel like those are years where, they say by the time your kid is, I think, 9 or 10, you're not going to be their best friend anymore.
Oh, Joy,
They're going to have other best friends.
Oh, no.
And I know that's not always the case, but right now, Gideon loves like going to work with Austin, and he wants to come home and be with mom and sit on my lap still. And I feel like the last, 5 years I have in motherhood, like I just feel like I try and get through the day. I'm just going to get to the end of the day. I'm going to get to bedtime. And I think there are seasons where I will be there again. If I have another kid, like I feel like when they're babies, you're just exhausted and you're trying to get through the day. But I don't want their whole childhood to be mom's just trying to get to bedtime and trying to make it to the next nap time, because I feel like I was there so long. And anyway, this last year, I feel like God really has turned my heart towards my kids in just a completely different way. And it's really been amazing to see that answer to prayer, because I just being purposeful and I'm not perfect at it. And I think that that's something that we'll always have to work on. But there are a lot of days where I just have a joy in motherhood like I've never had. And I'm so thankful. And just enjoying doing homeschooling and enjoying where I'm at with the kids and their routine, which I'm not, I'm scared of routine. We were actually talking about this. I'm scared of being like held down by routine, but it's so beautiful. I'm like, I have a flexible routine. I'm not like hard-nosed, but it's really neat.
That's cool.
Amazing.
Look at where you girls are in life. It's incredible.
It's crazy.
So fun.
Well, Joy, thanks for hanging out. We didn't have time to get to some questions that people sent in, so we'll have to do another sit down.
Another episode.
And maybe we just do all
Q&A.
Q&A.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Sister
Let's
Q&A.
do it. Let's do it.
Joy, you're the best. We love you so much. Thanks for hanging
having
out.
me on.
This is so fun. So
Sorry
good.
for crying most of the time.
It's okay. We all do.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out. And like, subscribe, do all the
all the
stuff.
things.
Review, leave a review. See you later.